Hey, just checking in. We want to make sure you can hear me. That's what we always do before we kind of get an update on what's going on. So just double checking my audio so you guys can hear me clicking and clacking around. Waiting for you guys for an update here for a few people joining us. All right, cool. Sounds good. Well, I'll let a few more people join in here as we continue to focus on what's happening throughout the area. So make sure you guys can hear me.
All right, cool.
Perfect.
Sounds good.
First and foremost, welcome. Been a while since we've had any weather to talk about. So Weather Impact Meteorologist Gary Frank with an update on what's in store for us. Dry the next couple of days, big picture shows. Things may change as we head into Saturday. And it's not something we talk about so often in October, but I want to take you to a few spots here. And first and foremost, here as part of our Weather Impact Alert, you can text your questions to 314-425-5355. I'll be monitoring them. I'll bounce back on the computers. I also can check your comments here on Facebook as well. I'll be following along, so I'll try to answer them here once I get through what we're talking about. So let's mention the fact that we have, as we look at this severe weather threat, you look at the big picture here, and you could see kind of what we're looking at here at the moment as I kind of spin this behind me. We're in the middle of clear skies. Now, there have been some clouds in the Metro East overall, and you've kind of seen those here, but for the most part, it has been relatively dry. So I'm going to change that here around. You're able to see where most of this has been, right? This is where a lot of the cloud cover has been in the Metro East. It's kind of hanging tough, but otherwise it's been clear. Now the big story is look at this system right about here. You can see where the core of this low pressure is, and it's right about here. This is an upper level low. You can kind of see where the spin is. That's the driving force behind some of the change that's going to be on the way. And the leading edge of things here, as you'll see, right about here, that's where we have some pretty good, at least, energy. And that's the driving force. That's the lift behind where our storms are coming from. It's something we've been lacking for a while. Some of these major storm systems that we just have had a hard time finding any sort of rain altogether. It's been dry, it's been warm, it's been mild. We haven't had any rain whatsoever. But as we start to see these ingredients come together, I'll show you a different view of it here on our visible satellite and infrared here as we talk about what's in store for us as we get closer to Saturday. And what you'll notice here is you can see where the leading edge of this stuff is, right? This is kind of what I mentioned here as this kind of ends right about here. You'll see the leading edge where there are some pretty good aggressive spots where we have storms that are firing up. That's what I would expect is going to happen for us on Saturday as this storm gets a little closer to us. You can see behind, I mean, you've got temperatures outside as I get, just kind of looking behind this. Look at these temperatures from a big perspective. You've got a pretty wide area of a cold front here with temps in the 40s and 50s here behind it. And that's what I think we're going to have to watch out for. As that front arrives, really the next few hours, no problem, right? Like I said, this is not an issue for today at any stretch of the imagination. We're not going to see any problems today. But as we get closer to our severe threat, let's monitor and talk about Saturday because we've been following along. Scott and the team have also been tracking and talking about how really the trend for severe weather looks to be better south. That still lines up, but I want to go into detail on who may get the best threat of severe weather and maybe there's a more elevated threat. And we've kind of shown an extended risk the last couple of days. What you'll notice here is the entire area, and this is a big area, the core of the severe weather threat remains pretty much in Arkansas. But there are a lot of spots from the Boot Heel and up to our southern part of our viewing area, and a lot of people and friends down there stream, so I want to check in with you as well. Now, what we're seeing here from north to south is that if you're in Alton, areas in Jerseyville to the north, I would say about half of our area, maybe 55 to 60% of our area is in a marginal risk for severe weather. But I want to get you to where some of the spots like Festus, Sparta, Marissa, Redbud, Prairie du Rocher, Bloomsdale, Bonne Terre, Potosi, Belgrade, areas in Iron County to the south, Lesterville, Bunker, even Salem on the Missouri side, and even in Rolla, Cuba as well. I don't want you to get caught up with exactly where this line is. Just know that, to me, this is where a better threat for severe weather still is in place here. It's to the south, right? And a lot of that really is going to be to the south right about here. This is where the core of the severe ingredients to me are going to be a little bit better here for us. This is not some widespread severe outbreak though. As we continue to talk about what's going on over the next several hours, let's focus on why we got here. And I'll look at a couple of different things here first and foremost. So I'll pop back out to me and I want to show you some of the inside baseball, maybe looking at some of the computer models that we're kind of showing you and figuring it out, because I want to show you what this looks like from a standpoint of, let's look at standpoint of this. Now, you'll notice that this just looks like a lot of pressure lines. We have everything right about here. You'll notice specifically throughout the entire plain states that all the way from Michigan, that line of storms that goes all the way down into the panhandle of Texas, that's where the core of this energy is. And the cold air is behind it. So that's where storms are going to develop. The fact that this front is going to lag really makes it more of a challenge as this front lags. It's bringing a lot of moisture, cloud cover, not only at the low level of the atmosphere, but above it. So we're not going to see one of these situations where you wake up Saturday morning, all of a sudden it's sunny and we have more instability. That doesn't seem like it's going to be the case. However, there are other driving forces in play. And as we look at some of our other AI models, I always like to do this from a severe weather standpoint, you'll notice that not only from the St. Louis University one, from the Storm Prediction Center one, and also from the Colorado State one, there's a pretty good outline that there's going to be severe weather somewhere in the region, right? And the core of where those black dot areas are, even into Arkansas, to me, that's where the best severe weather threat and therefore the best tornado threat will probably be. That's going to be something that we look out for at that time. However, overall, what you'll see moving forward is the fact that we do have a couple of things that are important. So when you look at it from this perspective, zooming in, this is where the core of that severe weather is, right? And even as I back this out a little bit more, the Storm Prediction Center on day 2 will give us more of an outline of what at least threats are increased. To me, right now, this is where the core of the tornado threat is. The northern edge of it, though, it's not out of the question. And let's talk about why, because I think one of the reasons why, as we talk about what's happening here, is the fact that we're going to continue to see this wind. And you'll notice here in our upper level wind, notice how everything is where we're right now. This is where most of the rain has been. This is where this ridge that we've kind of stayed in place, right? And if I just kind of zoom in, I should be able to zoom in. Let me see if I can do this real quick because it's just a little more wonky. As we kind of zoom, there we go. So this is kind of where we are right now, right? This high, this is where all these storms go over the top of us. That's what we've been in consistently in for the last couple of months, it seems like. That's why it's so dry, right? So the major storms and the jet stream have had a hard time moving down. But let's watch this over the next few days because now you'll start to see this upper level pattern with the wind here. Notice how we have this pretty strong wind out of the south and southwest. This is Saturday at 8:30, and even as if I want to back this up a little bit, the wind direction isn't changing all that much even through about noon, right? It's out of the southwest, okay? And you'll notice these darker shades. The wind is roaring at the upper levels of the atmosphere, and I think that's really important for us because that wind threat is the main threat that we have, but it also is the leading edge of that system that's over right now in about Colorado and areas in Idaho. And as it dips down, it's really carrying a lot of wind with it as well. Why is that important? Well, let me show you here because I want to pick up where some of the wind is right now. I want to pick up where some of the wind is going to be, right? The wind has not been much of a factor, but I want to show you where that's going to be from a localized standpoint. Because I think what we're going to see is watch our wind as we get closer to Saturday, if I can get it to go this far on this particular model. So I'm kind of doing this on the fly, and I think I should be able to get some of this to go that far out. I'm going to find this for you because I think it's important because you'll see where the wind shifts, where that is. And I'm going to get it all the way to Saturday as well. So at least it's Saturday morning because I think it's important because there's enough twisting of the wind here if I can get this to go all the way to Saturday, which I believe I can. Okay, so now we're at Saturday morning, right? So I can get this to go through Saturday morning. Watch how we're still seeing some wind out of the south. It's not all that increased. It's starting to pick up by 9:15, 9:30. Notice how we start to see the wind. I'm going to pull this back here. Wind is out of the south-southwest here. It's going to start to come out of the west-southwest. There's enough wind shear, the twisting of the wind aloft that says, well, there may be a few spots to the south that we start to see that instability increase. And as we look at the potential for storms here, the main story for me is the fact that we're going to see a line of storms that develops throughout. And we'll start off with to the west, right? So that's where this wind is coming into play. This cold front races through, shifts our wind as that jet stream continues to push through. And you'll notice this here as we look ahead. From 9:30, 10 o'clock, watch how this is the most recent run of Futurecast. This is a little earlier, and I can even pull up some different models, and I think you're going to find different times on all of them right now. That's going to be something we're closely watching. I think the main thing for us the morning is watch how 9 or 10 o'clock, we'll still see some of those reds that pop up. I think that's important, you know, simply because we do see the potential for a few storms here. But what you'll notice is the fact that areas off to the northwest, this particular run in Futurecast has already kind of brought the instability down. It's been raining all morning. It's 9 or 10 o'clock. It's not all that hot at this point, and we don't run into that great storm fuel like others have. However, with the upper level wind, I think that still continues that risk for at least wind on the leading edge of this. Now, as we go further out in the next several hours, watch how, even as we get to the afternoon, there are a few more of these reds that show up to the south. I think it's going to be really dependent on when this arrives, because this is 2 o'clock. This is not an incredible racing line of thunderstorms. This rain is going to develop parallel to this front, so a lot of us will still get rain. However, the leading edge of this will continue to see at least periods and pockets of storms along that. And I think what's important about that is this is where the better storm fuel is, and as we see the twisting of the wind, that's what I would expect to be giving us an opportunity for this severe weather threat. So let's focus on a couple of things as you text your questions to 314-425-5355, and I'll get in there shortly in a second and talk more about that. But what we're going to continue to see is the fact that we still have from Saturday 11 o'clock all the way through, I would expect, really through about 5 o'clock. You're going to continue to see, I would say, conditions outside and really from 40 to 60 mile an hour wind. We're going to see a brief tornado possible from 40 to 60 mile an hour wind. I think that's where we're going to see that potential from Saturday at 11 to 5. 40 to 60 mile an hour wind and a brief tornado. Those two, to me, seem like the most common things. And I know 40 or 50 mile an hour wind is not severe, but it's certainly going to get your attention. Up to 60, it'll be severe. I think a lot of us will see that potential for some of these storms. It'll get your attention. You're outside. It's the weekend. You're not paying attention. It's been so dry. But the brief tornado isn't out of the question in a few spots, and I want to keep that in a close eye because I really think that that's going to be something that we have to monitor as there's some better storm fuel around as well. A lot of it has to do with the position of Saturday's setup, where this front arrives. And really, as we see this front push through the area, you'll notice the leading edge of this humidity has settled in. That's where we're going to see. Is there more instability that develops here? That's why we see the core of where the storms may develop and be an issue later in the day. Now, from a standpoint of a couple of other things here, before we answer some of your questions, if you've posted them online, Futurecast rainfall totals, to me, as I go all the way through the morning, to me, they're not all that impressive, right? It's not as much rain as I want. There will be pockets of heavier rain. I think half an inch on average, maybe 2/3 of an inch on average. There could be locally higher totals. I don't find it to be any drought-busting rain, but we'll take what we can get at this point. So, yes, it is a weather impact alert day for a couple of very good reasons. One, the potential for strong storms on Saturday. It's October. We're not thinking about this type of stuff. And, 40 to 60 mile an hour wind gusts and a brief tornado, those are the two things that are going to stick out and get your attention. We could see some smaller hail as well as I really break this down. I think wind gusts, the higher threat of all 4 of these things that I've outlined. Tornadoes and hail, pretty minimal. I think we're going to see some hail. It will be up to quarter size. This is not a big hail maker. That's enough, though, to get your attention on a severe thunderstorm warning, so we'll pay attention to that. Flooding, of course, not a concern. It's so dry, right? Those are the two things that I really think that we're going to focus on. And really, the rest of the next few days, you're going to see that steady diet of that. And I'll show you the 7-day forecast here before I get to some of your questions, either on Facebook or our text line of 314-425-5355 as we get to that. 78 degrees, a weather impact alert day as we continue to see that in the upper 70s. I think it's cooler the rest of the weekend, however. So as we focus on that, let's see if we can get to what's going on the, let's see if I've got any updates on Facebook. You guys are asking questions or wondering about what's going on here at this hour. For the most part, we are still, a lot of people still hanging out at work. So I just want this is going to pop on the live stream here as we've got, for the most part, quieter conditions for now. But like I said, these are the two things. I'm going to pop over to the computer here, check in to see if anybody's texted the line and see what's update. Like I said, this is not something that's a widespread severe weather outbreak, but I want to get your attention here in that regard, simply so we know that we are ready in case something happens here. To me, those are the two things that we're going to monitor. Let me see if I got any messages on the line and if anybody's messaging on what's going on. That's okay. Perfect. We are in good shape here. Okay, got all your updates, covered all the bases, and that is our update for this morning. I know myself and the rest of the team will continue to keep you posted about severe weather threat as we head into Saturday. That's the main story here at this hour as we continue to focus on that. I will leave you a look at this, and we'll have updates throughout the rest of the morning on KSDK.com and 5+.